Have you ever been bullied? Has someone made you feel low and small to the point where you didn't want to keep going to school or work? It sucks, but it is also life. And in one California town, they are trying to eradicate bullying completely from an entire city. You could make the case that getting bullied now and again builds character. It forces you to figure out who you are and stand up for yourself. And by the way, it doesn't end when school's over. Just look at Washington, D.C. It is full of bullies. And part of that is too many people buying into a two-party system for too long. At the White House Correspondents' Dinner, half the people said Obama was masterful, and half said Joel McHale fell on his face. Why can't they both be funny? Don't let people bully you into their beliefs, unless it's going to build up your character. This show's filled with characters, by the way. It's going to be a good night. This is The Independents. Hello, I'm Kennedy, your hostess in black, that's right. And I'm joined by Reason Magazine editor-in-chief Matt Welch. Yeah. Look at that. Yes, he's got the bees, he's got the club jacket, the pink shirt. Good. I don't know what he's pointing to. I hope he's not packing. Oh, it's a beautiful lining there. And Camille Foster from Free Think Media rounds out the triumvirate, together we are known as the Independentes, because it is Cinco de Mayo. So who is this Benghazi? It's a story that won't go away, and the slow drip of facts and missteps is just enough to keep Republicans thirsty for blood. Democrats have not yet bled out, but the new special committee on Benghazi, headed by South Carolina Congressman Rowdy Trey Gowdy, might fuel a new feeding frenzy that Republicans hope dashes Hillary's presidential aspirations. Does she have blood on her hands? Is there enough distance between her and Obamacare? And can Democrats peg the elephants as the party that never forgets and only focuses on the convenient and tired red meat of retread stories? Let us figure it out and assemble a worthy and raucous party panel. Gavin McInnes, he's co-founder of Booster New York. He's also a contributor to Tacky Mag. Some on the panel would call it Talkie Mag. We haven't quite figured it out yet. And voluptuous comedian who has a mind for business and a bod for biceps. It's Sherrod Small, and we're very happy to have you.
Thanks for having me, Kennedy.
You're welcome, Sherrod.
Appreciate it.
What's a bod for biceps?
You'll find out later. Yeah, winkety wink, wink. All right, well, do Republicans have it all wrong on Benghazi? And is the cover-up really worse than the crime? I'll turn to you, Matt Welch.
It's not about a cover-up, right? It's about, except to the extent to which the White House has deliberately withheld, covered stuff up. Let me rephrase. From the beginning, on September 11th, when our embassies and consulates were burning, the State Department, under Hillary Clinton's leadership, said, we apologize and we stand against religious incitement, basing this on a stupid video made by Nakuli in Cerritos, California. This was their way they did things. We just found out because of Judicial Watch, a harassing public interest law firm, that Ben Rhodes, who's dweeb, used to work in the White House, messaged out a strategy for everybody on September 14th in advance of Susan Rice's talking points that basically this has nothing to do with our own policy, this has to do with the YouTube video. So. Yeah. It confirmed what a lot of people have known for a long time, but the White House had stonewalled releasing this information for a long time, and there's other emails that they have been stonewalling for a long time. And what they do is that they tell us that they had this very politicized obfuscation, one in which they, again, threw free speech under the bus, instead of just saying, we don't really know what happened, it really sucks, we're trying to figure it out, give us a moment. They didn't give us a moment. What they did is they tried to make it a political thing in which we are blameless, the bad person has a beard and Cerritos. This is a problem, and there's a reason why we should keep getting down to the bottom of what exactly they did with this sort of spin factory.
I mean, I can totally.
What's the special?
Damn, man. Matt, I mean, somebody give him some water, so give him a drink.
Thank you.
I was on fire just now.
I would dare not try to add too much to that. I mean, I think Matt is spot on. You can expect stonewalling and obfuscation.
What is the special committee going to find?
That is the standard thing.
Now we're moving forward. We've got the special
I'm not
committee.
sure what the special committee.
Special?
I'm not sure what they'll find. It's certainly appropriate. You do not get transparency unless you force an administration to be forthright about this sort of thing. Democrat, Republican administration, same business. I mean, I don't think you have to try too hard to imagine a situation in which in a Republican administration might not be too excited about telling you about mistakes that they've made.
Situation.
Absolutely.
He would tell you to go.
So this is pretty standard.
Yourself.
Bureaucrats covering their butts, and it's nasty to look at the sausage being made, but that is precisely what's happening.
It is a sausage fest. It's unsurprising.
You got to tell what happened in that 7 hours, man. You had 2 Americans die, and you had a whole gap between where people talked and didn't do what they had to do, and then 2 new Americans died. So it's like,
and couldn't
what
the
happened there when you
commander-in-chief-
didn't send help?
Couldn't the commander-in-chief command some defense?
I would think that it would get to somebody before him. You don't have to call the president if you in the firefight. You dead. You're a dead man if you got to wait for the president to respond.
Yeah.
Whose job is it to get somebody to get them out of there before the other 2 Americans died?
I think,
that 7-hour gap.
We
is what
know
people
the
wanna
chain
know
of
about.
command. What we're trying to figure out is where was the breakdown in the chain?
It was sloppy.
And why? Who are you listening for, Gavin?
It sounds like.
Are you getting a radio transmission? Is someone giving you talking points? Is Susan Rice in your ear right now telling you how to respond
Yes,
appropriately?
I'm ignoring every word. I think what's summarily daunting about the entire process is the American left has become, they've sort of subsumed this conspiracy themselves, where they claim that it's an irrelevant doctrine that holds no relevance. But they'll quantify the body count and say there was only, a few people died and drones have continued more. But what we're saying is...
I don't know that I've heard that as an exact offense.
Well, that was on Al Jazeera. They claim that there's much more serious... They pull in George W. Bush, et cetera, et cetera. But the reason that we're so interested in Benghazi is that it sums up this sort of conflation of the media and the administration, where both of them have decided to work in cahoots. And it's
in concert. Here's the media. Here's the administration. I'm translating with my hands.
Yes, it's an example.
This is the political media, not the actual defense media, which has done a good job on this story. But the political media has said it's all Republicans going red in the face.
Exactly.
Well,
so what we're not necessarily saying is, Benghazi is this giant coup. We're saying, here's an example of what we've been screaming about this entire administration.
Yes.
Did William F. Buckley used to keep his finger plugged in his ear?
Yeah, he had his earpiece kept falling out. Thank you for getting that I was doing Buckley.
All right, well,
Wet Willie.
I think we're going to discuss the media in a different light right now. Thank you for bringing that up, Gavin. Volley, Perry, to you. The White House Press Correspondents' Dinner went down with several hitches this weekend. Community star Joel McHale was the MC, which is really a thankless job, and hosts get panned every year. Here's a few of McHale's highlights, from Chris Christie to Gitmo. He lumped everyone into his roast.
It's good to see that White House Press Secretary and boy detective Jay Carney is here. Buckle up, Governor Christie. Excuse me. Extender, buckle up. I'm a big fan of President Obama. I think he's one of the all-time great presidents, definitely in the top 50. My favorite bit of yours was when you said you'd close the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay. That was a classic.
It's funny. I don't know why people were so hard on Joel McHale. He's very funny. And if you remember...
He's just so unlikable. He got something unlikable about him. I love him, but I can see why people would look at him like that.
Really?
Yeah, he's got a snarky.
I think they consider him to be a political outsider. I think they give more leeway to someone like Stephen Colbert.
That's a worse.
And even some of the
he
East
got
Coast.
panned. He got totally panned,
He did,
even though he was
a
awesome.
few years ago,
Plus, in
yeah,
that
he was really good, but that was one of the few missteps he is considered to have made.
Just from a comedian standpoint, mic the room.
Yeah.
Mic the damn room so you can hear
They
some
never
laughs.
do. And you know what happens? That's a really good point, because people say that even though he's being received well in certain parts of the room, that he has failed.
It's like performing at Grand Central Station.
The president responded with some well-timed barbs. It was a way for him to showcase his everyman cadence, one of the few things he has left going for him. And here he is talking about Colorado being the first state to go full Choom Gang.
Colorado legalized marijuana this year. An interesting social experiment. I do hope it doesn't lead to a whole lot of paranoid people who think that the federal government's out to get them and listening to their phone calls.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, because it's actually happening.
Wait, did you really laugh, or was that a fake laugh?
That's kind of All right, well, did the president resurrect his legacy with a few jokes? And did Joel find himself drowning in deep soup? Gavin McInnes.
I think Joel was a little bit awkward, but one of the things they all do to these hosts, and no one will tell you this, is sort of like Skull and Bones, is you have to have a baby carrot up your ass. And most can handle it. Stephen Colbert can handle it. I don't know why. But Joel had never done that before.
Right.
And if you want to try it at home, it is very disorienting. I did it right now, and I did a weird William F. Buckley imitation. I don't know what that was.
Well, and oddly enough, you have been invited to MC next year's White House Correspondents' Dinner. Yeah. So
Underhanded stuff. It's secret.
I would call that a success.
Yes.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a big surprise.
What?
Oh.
Our panel is coming back for the next segment, and
Yes.
it's going to be super good. We're going to have
one.
plenty of time with our panel tonight. A little later in the show, you can lead the discussion. Believe it or not, we are giving you the opportunity to go to our Facebook page right now and vote for what they should yap about. Do you want to hear about Condoleezza Rice backing out of a Rutgers graduation ceremony speech, or Chuck the Fun Schumer trying to ban alcohol? Come on, Chuckles. It's just powdered booze. A new performer makes her SNL debut and gets lambasted for being a racist. Is Saturday Night Live harboring the secret Sterling? Find out next. Some nights just call for a mouth trumpet. Hello. I've answered the phone. The Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, hosted NSL this weekend. But the highlight of the show went to newcomer Leslie Jones, an African-American writer who waded into some pretty controversial territory when she decided to joke about race.
Back in the slave days, I would have never been single. I'm 6 feet tall and I'm strong, Colin, strong! I mean, look at me, I'm a mandingo. Master would have hooked me up with the best brother on the plantation.
Yes.
See, and the tweets were ruthless and stacked against her. One read, "This Leslie Jones person is an embarrassment. I'm so appalled right now." Another, "SNL's Weekend Update interview with Leslie Jones was the most racist thing I've seen in a while, and it almost made me cringe. Hashtag WTF SNL. Leslie Jones fired back, defending her performance, tweeting, quote, "This is exactly why black people are where we are now. Quote, I wouldn't be able to do a joke like that if I didn't know my history or proud of where I came from." Why did she touch such a nerve? I think it's really interesting because I think she was highlighting body trends and how difficult it is for a gal in New York to be single. In fact, they could do an entire show about that with 4 good friends who spent a lot of their time drinking Cosmo.
All black.
Yeah.
12 years of Friends, maybe. That's what they'll call it. That's a joke because it's 12 years of
No,
slavery.
it's great. It's really good.
It's really good.
I love Leslie.
I mean,
thought
okay,
Leslie was
go ahead.
hilarious.
Sherrod, you are the comic in the house.
I
so.
thought Leslie was hilarious. I think she's right when she said that they're trying to put it in the box. It's like people get uncomfortable. It made people uncomfortable. Good. Maybe you should be uncomfortable.
Well, it's 12:30 at night.
It's 12:30 at night. You're in the comfort of your own home. That's the place to be uncomfortable.
And it's Saturday
stupid.
Night Live. Remember when Saturday Night Live used to make you kind of uncomfortable,
make you
especially
cringe.
Isn't
about
that what
race?
good comedy is supposed to do?
But it was also-
It was great. She was great. It was great. But, you know, this is a new era for Saturday Night Live. This is the first time you've seen a black woman on there, let alone getting controversy, so I'm proud of her.
It was
That's not
also
the first
funny.
one.
Minor
Not the first
detail.
one, but first cast member in a while since, what's her name?
Well, they just hired.
Maya Rudolph.
Oh, yeah, Maya was on there, too. That's right.
Yeah.
Maya
Been a
Rudolph
few.
does not count. Are you kidding me? No, she's a real black woman, and she is hilarious. And that tweet she joked
She's
about
blacker than black.
her
She's-
grandmother kicking the crap out of 2 white guys and laughing her head off the whole time. That when someone says that, you just know, oh, you're one of us. You're part of the hilarious community.
Right.
Because the only thing
Right.
cooler than laughing when you beat someone up is having the cigarette in your mouth and just you going.
Why are you kicking?
Okay, but by the way,
There's nothing else there.
I would just like to say that in this era where everyone backs down from a controversy, everyone gives in when there's a protest,
Right.
the fact that she took to Twitter and defended herself, I was very proud of you, Leslie Jones.
Good for
I've never
her.
met you, but I have to say, I really admire your strength and the fact that you stood up for yourself, because she was highlighting a couple of subtle layers, which is another thing really good comedy does.
It's like they try to act, like when you black, you got to
You
represent.
don't have to say when or if to me.
when you're black next Wednesday, you got to represent people look at you like you got to represent everything. So she's got to be this black woman doing this comedy bit. At the same time, she got to be a black professor explaining history. victory.
Yeah.
It's like she's not both things.
So she's got to be Oprah and Malcolm X.
Exactly.
Well, the other problem with
had she been a white comedian, all
could
of
just
this,
be that.
yeah, but and she wouldn't have gotten into any trouble at all, right?
Well, with this
she would
bit,
never go near that in a million years.
she would not go near this bit.
The
She would have
problem
been
with what
fired
this
already.
shows
Let Kevin
is
have the ball.
We've cast such a huge net of anti-racism. It's like when you catch seagulls and dolphins.
Right,
And that, like we're catching all these black people
Right.
and race mixers and Jews and everyone else going, oh, I'm sorry. And they're in the net going, what are you doing? I'm making a joke about beauty standards and slavery. Get this
We're the
shit off of
dolphins.
me.
We're the dolphins in the tuna net.
I mean, she's saying I'm a 6-foot-tall African-American woman. Maybe it's hard to get a date.
Yeah, it's like let her joke.
Maybe her size
Can
and
she
her
joke
body
about
type.
that? Maybe.
But
That
if he's 6
she's
foot
not
tall-
getting hit on a lot.
And by the
Sorry.
way, maybe she's also highlighting a victory for Lupita Nyong'o, who was voted the most beautiful
Right.
woman in the world by People magazine, which is the gold standard of all journalism.
That's true.
This
And
made
if-
me racist against white liberals.
If you're
That's
6
all I
feet
got
tall
on that.
woman, you can just take the penis if you wanted, right?
Come on now. Come on now.
I mean,
It's
just take
actually,
it. I mean,
some of them will rip
who's
it off.
stopping you?
Which is why I'm against homosexuality. They're too strong.
You can
They
take
tear
it.
it right off.
I don't even know what's going on. What's happening?
You can bite it and throw it like a grenade.
I have notes about beauty standards and nice ladies and
it's
difficulty
holding
being
on by a thread.
There was no celery stalk. No one was ripping anything off. Kevin, I'm sorry. All right, guys, stick around, and we're going to see in a few minutes. It's going to be a great discussion. By the way, one California town is trying to squash all bullying, and not just for middle schoolers. If you're in your 20s and you step on someone's delicate feelings, you're going down. Bullying is on the rise. Or is it? Stay with us.
Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up, get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Life is your right. Get up, stand up. We can't give up the fight. Stand up for your right. Lord, Lord. Get
It's the Grateful Dead. I apologize. Welcome back to the Independence. Carson, California is serious about a very big problem facing kids of all ages, even adult age kids. It's bullying. Yes, city council people there want Carson to be a bully-free zone, so they are altering human nature. A society free from bullying is like an athlete free of thirst. It is impossible to legislate subtle interactions that plague closely tied individuals, but they're trying. The new ordinance that's going to go before City Council next week reads, it would become a misdemeanor in Carson, California to cause anyone from kindergarten through age 25 to, quote, feel terrorized, frightened, intimidated, threatened, harassed, or molested with no legitimate purpose. All right, well, let me ask you this, Carson folks. What about bullying that takes place between siblings? Those complicated family bonds that are often overlooked, but have more of an impact on shaping an individual and who we really are. Will brothers and sisters be punished as freely under this new wording? How crazy is this?
I grew up next to Carson. It's right next to Long Beach, California. Every day, I'm going to make a confession here on television. Every day in 7th grade and 8th grade, this bully guy who was big and had one of those junior high mustaches would like punch me in the shoulder and slap my locker shut and humiliate me in front of people. I stayed home from school sometimes. It was bad. I didn't grow so fast in 7th grade. Imagine, as much as I hated that guy in 7th and 8th grade, if I would have said to a cop, slap a misdemeanor on this 13-year-old or this 14-year-old. Imagine he gets into the criminal justice system instead of 2 years later being in a band with me because we made up, you know. It's ridiculous.
You've verklempt. You're emotional just
I know.
talking about it.
I know, it's terrible. No, I mean, to criminalize this behavior, don't make Carson a bully-free city, because that's impossible. Make it a pothole-free city, which is something a city can actually do. It can fix its problems, its air, which is terrible in Carson, instead of trying to legislate behavior.
They do have a great IKEA, though.
Yeah, although this overreaction is not limited to Carson, there are municipalities all over the country that are enacting similar ordinances, or at least talking about it. And in many cases, it's supposed to be because of all of the crime that we've seen happening in schools, the shootings, which apparently are somehow related to bullying. But apparently making schools gun-free school zones doesn't happen to necessarily make them safer either. So I suspect this sort of legislation will fail.
Bullying is this, it's just become a catchphrase. I mean, violence in schools is down, even with all the school shootings. All of the terrible things that we grew up with are so far down than it was back then. And yet, so we have this phrase bullying that we need to attract. This sort of a trend of popularity.
It's a blanket phrase that's unfixable. And the thing that concerns me as a parent, as someone who grew up with older brothers, and they bullied me from time to time, but and I don't advocate bullying in any form, but I'm worried that an ordinance like this would actually cause children to be more anxious and so concerned about their actions and what they're doing, what they're saying, that they're going to go to jail for being kids.
Or rat out people who they can convince an authority is the problem, even if they're guiltless.
And how do you prove that someone hasn't bullied you or that you haven't bullied someone else?
I mean, if the first instinct for a kid growing up is to, report behavior to an authority, that's not a very good instinct. I mean, you need to figure out the line between actually hurting people and seeking remediation for that, which is appropriate. Or someone's making fun of you and you're trying to get them arrested.
You also have to learn how to defend yourself. I mean, it is an essential part of growing up. And for some people, yes, it's a really hard lesson. And people have to be held accountable, but sometimes kids have to learn that accountability within their own social circles and not necessarily from some authoritarian outside force.
Amen.
Yep.
All right. Well, Kate Upton feels her greatest asset is being ignored. Is it her intellect, her comedic timing? Plus, Ben Affleck is a little too good at math. We'll discuss that degenerate. Coming up next, it's a topical storm. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Independence, where it's raining news. And we're having a wet t-shirt contest. Topic number 1. Kate Upton is a wildly successful model, blonde and buxom, whose ample bosom might be solely responsible for her meteoric rise to fame. She's no scoutmaster, but she knows how to get a campground worth of pup tents pitched. But she thinks people are focusing way too much on her dirty pillows. She wants to be known for what's really important. So what's that? Her flair for design? Her love of chemistry? No. Upton says, you know what? My butt doesn't get that much attention. So I think this shot will get it the attention it deserves. And where's the shot in question? No, that's still her boobies. Okay. No, that's not it either. All right, well, you gotta love a woman who's down to earth, who knows the upside of a good backside. And I know Camille loves her.
Yeah, it's good. This story makes me a little sad because she shouldn't feel like we don't appreciate her. And I think we need to have a national conversation about Kate Upton. We need to talk about this. We need to think about what we've done to make this woman who's done so much for us, who's gone to space for us. Look at that. She's gone to space for us. She's gone to space for us. She shouldn't feel
One
underappreciated.
small step for
She's
man.
in space.
One giant step for her.
Unbelievable.
It is an outrage, Camille. I'm so glad you finally.
I'm going to take this up with O'Reilly. He'll agree with me.
Good, yeah. Well, he'll probably put it in the memo or go to the back of the book.
If it's not in there already.
Yep. Topic number 2. Ew! If you were having a hard time thinking of new reasons to despise the new Batman, let me give you a new one. Ben Affleck is wealthy beyond belief, an Academy Award winner twice over. He's married to a successful actress, and he's super good at math. Counting, actually. Specifically card counting, and he's apparently been banned for life from the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Vegas for counting cards in double-deck blackjack. He plays up to $100,000 a game, and he knows when to hold them and when to fold them a little too well, and a lot of casinos have taken notice. Ben was supposedly on a romantic weekend with his gal Jen and decided to throw away the kids' college fund by scratching the felt. And when he realized the deck had been exhausted of most of its face cards, he started throwing down stacks of rich chips. The Hard Rock said what most Batman fans would like to say: "You suck. You're a cheater. You don't belong here. Now get in the car and let's give someone who really deserves it that shot."
Do you think that counting cards should be a removable offense?
I think being Ben Affleck should be a removable offense from the Batman series.
And I think that he planted this story to make him sound smarter than he actually is.
No, I give him credit for being able to tell, oh, there are more kings that are gone from the deck of cards.
It's a skill. It is a learned skill. But I'm behind you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I do not want Mr. Affleck, and I respect him as a filmmaker, very talented guy in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
I don't think
Django
he's right
Unchained
for
was a
Batman.
great movie.
I don't think he's right for Batman. Just not sure.
He's not right for
It's
Batman.
going to ruin Frank Miller's vision. I don't want that.
He's going to ruin Frank Miller's reputation. We should send him into space in a bikini, all right? Topic number 3.
That could be sexy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, here it's about to get really sexy, Camille. Dennis Rodman may be a worthless drunk, but the admission, and by the way, that is an admission by everyone who knows him and who has been forced to do business with him lately, well, he also may be totally delusional as well. The man who claims to be Kim Jong-un's best friend says Kim's uncle Jang was not only not murdered by the pudgy-faced tyrant, but that the uncle is alive and well. Rodman says Jang-a-lang-a-ding-dong was standing right there, right behind him, and I have reason to believe it was actually the stench of Rodman's vomit-heavy, or actually vodka-heavy vomit that was so rank and so pungent, it caused the former NBA star to re-hallucinate. He crafted Jang's resurrection as a coping mechanism for his own failures, those of his life and liver. North Korea has admitted to assassinating the former Kim family patriarch. Oh, but I'd take Rodman's pickled brain visions as their own proof. Sure.
I think Dennis Rodman reminds us of something very important, which is that we shouldn't believe everything that we hear out of North Korea just because we don't know. It's crazy. It's so crazy. It might be true.
Uncle Jang might be alive?
I think he might be, sure. But I think the last person in the world who would know that piece of information is the former 6-time rebounding
champ. He's standing right there. You love Dennis Rodman, and you don't think he's guilty, like Mike Tyson.
Guilty of what?
Whatever. Whatever, Camille. You defend the indefensible every night. I was just lumping in.
We try, doing the Lord's work.
Okay, very good. Topic number 4. I know the problem you've had when you've gone to San Francisco. You meet a filthy vagrant when you're out busking and your banjo hasn't earned you enough money for at least the 2 of you to spend an evening together, deeply entwining your bodies in each other's nude filth. Well, busk away, austere dreamers. San Francisco can now boast the first hookup truck. It is a putrid den of shared fluids where you and a willing partner can swap froth for a half hour, and it's only going to set you back $75. Try getting that sort of a deal from the Westin. And if you make a mess, it's going to cost you extra. So make sure you bring another bandana in case you have to mop up.
That is the most unappetizing series of photographs. Holy cow. Come to this mold-encrusted kind of off-white truck here with people in clown mustaches. That's going to be great for everybody.
I mean, what happened to the Hojo? Is it like that bad now? Like Hojo, Days Inn, any place else?
In San Francisco, it's about $6.50 a night.
What about the West Side Motel?
Yeah, well, I don't even know what that is.
East Side.
Whatever.
Well, whatever. Whatever you. So if you find your hobo of choosing, now you guys have a place to go. I think it's very romantic. Good job, San Francisco. Utah Representative Chris Stewart is going to join us next to discuss dismantling the growing federal police state. And we give you the power to control what our panelists say. That is not an easy feat with Sherrod and Gavin, believe me. What are they going to discuss? Condi Rice backing out of a graduation speech because of the Iraq War? Or chafing Chuck Schumer going full fascist on powdered alcohol? Don't threaten Chuck with a good time. You go to our Facebook page right now. You go ahead and vote. All right, stay with us. It's The Independents. Welcome back to the Independence, Los Independents. It is Cinco de Mayo. Before Cliven Bundy revealed himself to be the Donald Sterling of Utah, his case raised some serious questions about the militarization of federal agencies. Who knew the BLM had their own paramilitary unit? And guess what? They're not alone. The IRS, Department of Fish and Wildlife, even the Department of Education have their own troops to administer the smackdown should things get tense. Our next guest is looking to curtail some of these units. He wants to cut funding and get some accountability. He should know. He's from Utah, and they house several federal agencies who already have more than enough control over your life. Well, welcome to the show, Representative Chris Stewart.
Hey, good evening. Thank you for letting me spend a few minutes with you.
I really appreciate it, and I want to know, from your point of view, tell me about some of the other agencies that are militarized in some sense or another, that have these paramilitary units. How many?
Yeah.
What are the surprising ones, and what is the ultimate cost?
Well, you know, we don't know what the ultimate cost is. We're actually investigating that. But, you know, the number may be as high as 73 of them. And you listed some of them, but, I mean, heavens, the Department of Education, Food and Drug Administration, as you mentioned, BLM, IRS, EPA. It appears that nearly every major government agency, and many of the minor agencies as well, have these essentially, they don't call them that in many cases, but they're essentially paramilitary units. And I got to tell you, these are regulatory agencies. These aren't law enforcement agencies. And, you know, they're enforcing tens of thousands of pages of regulations. And can you think of a situation that is so urgent with a regulatory matter that you got to have a SWAT team and get them there right now?
Congressman, this came about because of the Homeland Security Act of 2002. So it was in the wake of 9/11 that we decided to give inspectors general these kind of powers of full police authority. Are you looking to actually amend that or slice out that enacting legislation and just stop this where it started?
Well, you know, if you were to ask me, I think ultimately that would be our goal. Now, we're early in the process, and where we're starting is looking at the funding levels. But I tell you, the American people understand this. They have responded to this idea. And a lot of times we think of what happened in Nevada, and I know that's caught the media's attention, but this has been going on, or examples like that, for several years that have caught my attention. I mean, there was an example in California a few years ago where the Department of Education, early in the morning, you know, rammed down a guy's door, handcuffed him, drag his kids out to the car, and it was over what was financial aid issue, a financial aid fraud. There's examples of the Food and Drug Administration going on to a family farm in Pennsylvania with essentially a SWAT team. And his crime was he was shipping small amounts of unpasteurized milk to some mothers in Washington, D.C. who wanted to give their children some unpasteurized milk. I mean, when the American people hear these kinds of things, it creates so much more distrust between the people and between the federal government, and it's just extraordinarily unhelpful, I think.
All right, and who should be policing these situations? Who should be in charge? Should it be the military? Should it be local law enforcement?
Well, yeah, exactly, local law enforcement. Look, there's a reason why sheriffs are elected. If your local sheriff or his deputies are abusing people, if they're you know, doing things that they shouldn't or exercising authority they don't have, you can go to your sheriff. And ultimately, if he doesn't correct it, you can vote him out of office. But try to find these federal regulatory agencies and their SWAT teams. Try to identify who's involved with them and try to talk and correct them. It's nearly impossible. It is exactly right. I think it's exactly the right approach to have federal law enforcement. You know, we want them to protect themselves. We understand, for example, out here in the West, where I am this evening in Utah, there's BLM agents that are out there in very remote parts of the state. I think it's appropriate that they carry a sidearm if they feel that's necessary. But this is something very different. And again, the American people, they just don't appreciate it. It creates so much distrust between the American people and the federal government, and that's one of the primary problems that we have right now.
All right, well, thank you very much, Representative. We'll keep our eye on this, and, you know, we'll see if Darrell Iss's Data Act somehow sheds some transparency on this situation, because if we don't even know what it's costing, how are we supposed to figure out what they're doing? Thanks again.
Well, we're going to find out, so thank you.
All right, very good. You can go to our Facebook page right now and vote for what our panel should talk about next. So what do you think it should be? Should they talk about Condoleezza Rice backing out of a Rutgers commencement ceremony speech, or sucky Chuck Schumer trying to ban alcohol, the powdered alcohol? Facebook, now! Go. See you. That I believe. Oh, my garden. I'm so glad that your ears are covered during the commercial breaks. Welcome back to The Independent. You've been flirting with our Facebook page all night. But what did you commit to? Gave you a couple of stories to pick from. 58% of you voted for Condoleezza Rice. You want to hear why she backed out of a graduation speech at Rutgers University. Only 42% wanted to hear about New York Senator Charles Schumer getting all fired up over powdered alcohol. All right, well, let's get to it. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice was invited to give the commencement address at Rutgers, but God forbid someone holds a different opinion. She disinvited herself after students and faculty threw a fit.
Say no to war crimes, say no to Condi. Condi Rice has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Condi Rice has got to go.
Hey, ho, ho.
Get a new slogan.
Get a new sound. Get a new
There's got to be something else
and
out there.
no more hey, hey, ho, ho for anything. I don't care if it's union rallies or protests. It's something else.
Yeah.
These are college kids. You know, they got nothing to do but sit around and, you know, tool around with their xylophones. All right, well, here's a drill for the sissies of academia. If you invite someone to your school to speak, let them speak. You people are such weenies, and I'm horribly disappointed in all of you, the speakers and the committees, who back off when you've invited someone to give some sort of an address.
Where were all of these protesters when Hillary Clinton came to speak on their campus, like 2 years ago? I mean, she voted in favor of this conflict as well. She's kind of hawkish. Were they upset about that?
She's the single most hawkish Democrat. If it was up to her, we'd be in war in Syria right now.
She's the John McCain of the Democratic Party.
The flakiness of the left, of the
word.
anti-war left, is really, really frustrating for me.
But just to play devil's advocate, what if you're Donald Sterling, you're invited to a wedding this week,
Okay.
and you go, you know what, if I come, it's going to become a big thing, and Sterling at the wedding, I'm just not going to go, and you guys have your nice wedding.
I got no problem.
Condoleezza Rice is Donald
But
Sterling.
I mean, doesn't she kind of have a point by saying, you know what, I'll let you kids scream and yell.
Yeah,
and I
got no problem with Condi in this case. I think it was a perfectly respectable thing to do. But it's from the perspective of students. I mean, George Will had a comment about a year ago or so saying that modern liberalism right now doesn't really have a lot of philosophical consistency. It's mostly about people making gestures to make themselves feel good about themselves.
Yes.
So they're positioning. I mean, you see, read Twitter any day. That's everyone is, and they did it during the Sterling thing as well. I am not a racist, darn it. You know, and I feel good about myself. There's no actual through line in here about free speech or about association or about any of that stuff.
Where were these same Rutgers kids when the basketball coach was beating up the players? Wasn't that Rutgers?
Is that Rutgers?
I believe so.
I think that was Indiana University, and I think that man's name was Bobby Knight.
No, recently.
No, I think
they
I think
just fired the
right.
coach because he was caught on tape
Oh, yeah, and
throwing
caught on tape,
basketball,
yes.
hitting people in the head.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
and
they like
that
Condi.
fuzzy, grainy video from kind of far away.
Yes, he was beating him up.
Basketball. He was trying to motivate the team.
Well, he got fired. I think right now, I thought the school was going to cancel her speech before she pulled out of it. But I think it's big for her to pull out.
It's a
Who
classy
cares? It's
move.
Rutgers.
Yeah, it's a
Go
classy
Rutgers.
I
move.
just changed my mind. She has to do the speech to show these kids that political correctness is BS.
It is.
And
Can't have
that
a
if
heckler's
you
veto.
elect me to do a speech, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's a good lesson for them. Go ahead and have some
That's
screamings.
what I said at the top of the
hereby
segment.
change my mind to your mind.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But, you know, I understand her bowing out and not wanting a bunch of protesters shouting her down during the speech. But I guess
That's
I'm just
not
sick of
worth
the
it.
shouting down and
Coulter
the...
goes. You got to go.
Yeah.
You gotta go.
Get,
I
you gotta
agree.
get bodyguards. You know, Michelle Malkin goes. You
Take
gotta
a
get-
whipped cream pie to the head.
Take a whipped cream pie. That is delicious.
It's good
All right, well,
publicity.
Condoleezza went on record and said, quote, commencement should be a time of joyous celebration for the graduates and their families. Rutgers' invitation to me to speak has become a distraction for the university community at this very special time. Malarkey nonsense. Sometimes when someone goes, you will remember the person who goes and speaks at your commencement.
Luckily-
It shouldn't be a joyous celebration. A wedding night should be a joyous celebration. A commencement speech might have to be a tough lesson.
Well, luckily,
That's absolutely true, because you know what it waits these people is a lot of debt and unemployment.
luckily Rutgers still,
Grandma's basement. Sorry.
they still
go ahead.
have a Snooki plan to speak, so Snooki will be at the commencement.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's
But
Jersey
she
represent.
also was a very, very hawkish on foreign policy.
She was? Oh, I agree with that.
I was in Syria right now, especially when it comes to anything.
She actually went to Syria. She
said-
took up arms.
Well, she said we should have a base in Palermo, and we would have been there for Libya because it's closer to Africa. She's very, very focused on
she's dialed in.
politics.
Yeah, no, she's got some very intelligent critiques of Benghazi.
Do any of you college graduates here remember your commencement speech?
I didn't go.
I do.
Yes.
I skipped the
Al
graduation.
Gore came to ours.
Really?
Yeah. How crazy is that?
What did he say?
It's a bunch of stuff. I was like, shut up, white man. This ain't your day.
We had our
Your name was great. It
we
was
didn't have a commencement speech because we were on double secret probation.
Yeah.
But one of the guys in our frat had a thing about how the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor, and he ran out. And then
No,
another guy
no,
in the
that was
frat
Animal
said,
House.
"You know what? He's right." And we planned this huge thing where we took this guy's car and we called it the Deathmobile. We went crashing into an awning, and the guy got. It was crazy.
So what did Niedermeyer do?
Well, he was humiliated.
That's absolutely right.
At one point, a model wearing Playboy gear went through a guy's window, and he yelled,
Thank you, God."
And now he's a born-again Christian.
You were there too.
I was.
It was you. That's how you met your
Little
husband.
ears make you very aerodynamic.
Wait a minute. Now I recognize you. I'm not swearing at you in British. I'm doing British ears.
Okay, so
I mean bunny
are
ears.
you going to be here for the after show or not, Gavin?
No, I have to go. My wife's going to divorce me if I do any more Fox stuff.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Gavin. Sherrod, we'll see you on the after show.
Okay.
Because you are our friend tonight.
I'll be here.
Indeed. It is Cinco de Mayo. But what does that mean exactly? And When you're coming off your tequila buzz tomorrow morning, will you know why you sacrificed a perfectly good Tuesday? Why do we celebrate Cinco de Mayo?
Because it's a great holiday.
Great holiday. Yeah.
Exactly.
What does it commemorate?
A celebration of drinks with friends, right?
Pretending to be Mexican.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Independentes, bienvenido. It is Cinco de Mayo, so as people are hitting the bars, I decided to hit the streets and see how and why people were celebrating. It's Cinco de Mayo, an American holiday where people get drunk and pretend to be Mexican. What is Cinco de Mayo?
The 5th of May.
Wow, genius, really? What does it mean?
Truthfully, I'm not very familiar.
Mexican independence.
Is it really, though?
Huh?
Do they celebrate it in Mexico?
I don't know. No.
It's kind of when they told the French to go eat a baguette.
Okay.
Do French people hate Cinco de Mayo?
Why?
Because it's when Mexico kicked your What?
What you say?
It's
Mexico?
when, yeah, Mexico went facial, disgraceful, French guy. Why do we celebrate Cinco de Mayo?
Cinco de Mayo, isn't it the Day of the Dead?
No, that's El Dia de los Muertos.
Oh, well, there you go. That's how much I know.
There it is. And those weren't even the drinking ones. Those were just people coming out of Chipotle.
You're not a nice lady.
I'm such a nice lady. I'm the nicest lady. Come on now.
I think that was an example of why there isn't a lot of good Mexican food in New York right there.
Well, there's Chipotle. I mean, that's where
Right.
Kennedy went on Cinco de Mayo. Makes
And
a
I
lot of
also
sense.
found out they serve margaritas.
Yeah, that's true. You cannot leave with them, though. You have to stay there, drink your margarita inside.
If you accidentally take your margarita to the ladies' room and you have a wide-mouth water bottle, what do they have, the margarita police in the stalls?
Seems like a lot of trouble to go through, but this is New York
Maybe.
City. It's quite possible.
60,000 police officers.
Yeah, they have to have something to do. You can't just stop and frisk everyone.
I'm
Some of
not
them
telling
need to
people
hide
to
in the
do
bathroom.
that. I'm not suggesting people do anything
That's
of the
what it
sort.
sounds like to me.
Was this segment about Cinco de Mayo?
Or
It was
breaking
about
the
Cinco
law.
de Mayo, yeah. And Cinco de Mayo is not the Day of the Dead. It's not Mexican Independence Day.
What
it's
is
not
it?
the 4th of July.
What is it?
It's the day they beat the French in the Battle of the Puebla in 1862.
Did the French deserve it?
Come on now. Need you ask?
Yeah.
No offense to your beloved, but come on now.
Good.
Who would you rather see in a battle between Mexicans and frogs?
Mexicans? I mean,
Thank you, Camille. I
Yeah.
think you've just made my point.
I think you meant real frogs.
I prefer
Those are
peace.
Mexicans.
Yes, you do, of course.
Yeah,
Well,
me
you're-
too. I like peace too.
They both like accordions.
They do. Well said, Matt. I love that you find the common good and everything. And I want to thank you so much for watching tonight. Here's what you got to do right now. Take out your tablet or your laptop, go to our webpage, foxbusiness.com/The Independents, and join us for the after show. For Matt Welch and Camille Foster, I'm Kennedy. Good night. Thank you.